Good afternoon and welcome to today's session on harnessing our collective power to create a more sustainable normal. I'm Angus Slater, Managing Director of Bupa in Hong Kong, and it's my pleasure to facilitate this afternoon's panel discussion. I'll start with introducing a little bit about Bupa and what we do. We'll have some speaker slide sections and then we'll move into our question and answer section. So to begin with, Bupa is a company which is a healthcare specialist. We serve 1.3 million customers here in Hong Kong through 3 business lines: a domestic insurance business, an international insurance business, and Quality Healthcare, which is Hong Kong's largest chain of primary care clinics. We've been in business since 1947, and Bupa was set up with a social purpose to prevent, relieve, and cure sickness and ill health of every kind. And that purpose today is expressed rather more succinctly as helping our customers live longer, healthier, happier lives. Now, I'm sure, as I've noticed through the pandemic, you'll have seen an awakening that more is expected of businesses than simply maximizing their profit. This year of all years, customers and society is expecting businesses to actually provide products and services that have a positive benefit to society, the environment. Bupa this year in Hong Kong was one of the first businesses to provide coverage for COVID-19 for its insurance customers. We set up a 24/7 helpline. We set up a free webinar for our customers to ask Quality Healthcare doctors about COVID-19. We set up the Bupa Health Fest, which was a free music concert for customers and members of the community, and also free virtual healthcare classes for people to get through the difficult lockdown stages at home. And since then, we have been doing a number of other things in the community. We've had a mental health campaign in October as part of Mental Health Day. We launched products, the Bupa Hero product in the summer, which is one of Hong Kong's first insurance products that provide comprehensive mental health coverage. And lastly, and one which I'm particularly proud of, is our partnership with Bottleless, which is one of the social ventures Hong Kong stable, in which we have been working with them over a number of years to try to reduce the use of single-use plastic here in Hong Kong. So in this session, we've invited 3 experts to share their thinking on what more we can be doing in the space of sustainability. Our speakers include Justin Francis, who represents a sustainable travel company, Ellie Tang, here in the room with me, who's from a property business, and Xiaotan Zhao, who represents an environmental tech business. But before we get to the speakers, let's start with some warm-up polling questions for you in the audience. So the first question, hopefully you can see it, is about how many times you travel overseas in a year, usually before COVID-19. So please go ahead and make your answers now. Okay, so it looks like the majority 3 to 5 times. And I think that obviously gives rise to the question, can we think about a more responsible way to be a tourist when we travel? And Justin's going to share some great insights on that topic in the next section. Let's have question 2, please. So this question is all about which plastic products you've used in the last week. So go ahead and respond to that now, please. Okay, so most people are using most of this. And actually, one of the more worrying statistics that I read recently is that this year, over 100 million pieces of disposable cutlery and plastic bags were thrown away every week amid the pandemic, which is more than double the equivalent amount last year. And we're going to learn more about plastic waste reduction with Xiao Tan later in the session. So let's go to the final question, please. And the question is, what will you do to live sustainably? Okay, so it looks like the winner is Save Energy, closely followed by donating unused items and going paperless. And I guess the opportunity to grow your own food is a bit more limited here in Hong Kong. So these are some of the things that we can do on a personal level to live more sustainably. And we're now going to hear from Ellie, who's going to talk about how these changes can be implemented at a corporate level. So at this point, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Ellie Tang, who's head of sustainability for the New World Development Company Limited in Hong Kong and general manager of sustainability for K11 Concepts Limited in Hong Kong. And Ellie's going to explain to us, with the help of some slides, what sustainability means for New World Development, which is a property business with a diversified property portfolio, and how she and her business track and measure its impact. Ellie, over to you.
Thanks, Angus, for the kind introduction, and thanks to Social Enterprise Summit for having me. My name is Ellie Tang, and I come from New World Development. So to those who are local Hong Kongers, a lot of us would think of New World Development as a property developer only. But the truth is our listed conglomerates portfolio actually covers different business sectors. In addition to property, we're also in retail, in healthcare, hospitality, logistics, infrastructure, and etc. So long story short, we see ourselves as a key player in influencing millions of people's lives and to drive sustainability in their everyday consumption and their mindset. So when we talk about corporate sustainability, I think the usual reaction that we get is it's a bit fluffy or too broad. We don't really know how to find focus. And we felt the same way, to be quite frank, in the early stage of our sustainable development agenda. So with this in mind, we turned to the global directions under the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. I'd be preaching to the choir here. I'm sure a lot of the participants of SE Summit know much better than I do about the 17 UN SDGs, which form this framework of global directions to advance economic development and to address different environmental and social issues. So from the 17 UN SDGs, we selected 4 particular goals that echo our business priorities related to property development, building communities, our healthcare businesses, digitalization, and different partnerships with multiple stakeholders. So a few years ago, we decided to establish our long-term sustainability vision to put everybody on the same page. And we want to keep it quite relatable to different stakeholders, whether they are employees, customers, public sector partners, regulators, investors. So we have this New World Sustainability Vision 2030 referencing, the 4 circled sustainable development goals, and we've established key pillars of green, wellness, smart, caring. And the idea of this is to drive our customer experience across our businesses with elements of these 4 key pillars. So we hope that every customer or supporter of New World, when they come through our buildings or utilize our service, can feel elements of these pillars. So this particular vision helps us very clearly set our priorities. But to investors, they want comparability, right, from company to company in terms of how a company evaluates its non-financial performance. And in the corporate sector, or more specifically the finance sector, especially for listed companies' performance, there's this school of thought, right? ESG, environmental social governance. So they're basically a framework of different metrics to quantify these non-financial indicators, performance indicators. So as a listed company in Hong Kong, in addition to disclosing our annual sustainability performance via our website and annual report, we also participate in these global ESG ratings to help our investors understand how we're performing, say in terms of supply chain management, in terms of carbon emissions, or in terms of governance issues. Whether we're up to the international standard. So after a few years of hard work, we're very happy to be able to be listed by the Dow Jones Sustainability Asia Pacific Index. And in terms of real estate sector, we were also listed among the top of Eastern Asian companies on the Global Real Estate Sustainability Benchmark. Next, please. So under the 2030 vision, it's still quite conceptual for even internal stakeholders to understand what needs to be done. So, guided by international best practices, we decided to set long-term targets around the pillars of green, wellness, and caring. We deliberately left out SMART because we think SMART should be an underlying driver in terms of encouraging innovation within the company and externally by forming partnerships with startups and with other innovators. So we've set these group-wide targets that encompass not only the property businesses in Hong Kong and mainland China, but also our retail business, our infrastructure, and also services arms within New World Group. So just want to share a couple of highlights. I think there's no need to explain why we need to set green targets. Climate emergency is a key risk, a key global risk, regardless of the sector you sit in. So under green environmental protection, we have established specific targets to drive down our carbon emissions across the group by 50% before 2030. In addition to that, it's also important for us to reduce our waste because construction is also a core business of New World. So we have set specific targets that's most material to our sector and our core businesses around waste reduction, water reduction, and so forth. But sustainability, as all of us know, is not just about environmental protection. We also have to, achieve social harmony and community engagement. And of course, 2020 is a very special year when wellness officially came into the picture of sustainability and, has drawn many's attention to how an individual's health could be related to natural environment's health. So we have also set wellness and caring targets, specifically related to, say, maintaining our governance around supply chain and to reduce our occupational health and safety risk in the construction business or in other business activities. So year on year, we report the performance under these targets via our own reports, websites, and to different ESG ratings. So our investors, customers, stakeholders, tenants, everybody will understand how New World is driving sustainable development and can be a part of this journey. Next, please. So I've talked a lot about, targets and concepts. So here's an example of how we implement all of our internal standards that's aligned to global best practice in a property project. In Quarry Bay of Hong Kong, we recently launched a Grade A office building called K11 Atelier Kings Road. So this commercial redevelopment is quite interesting. It's actually one of the world's first triple platinum certified green and healthy building. So it has already achieved the final platinum rating under the US LEED Green Building Standard, the WELL Healthy Building Standard, and it's working on its BEAM Plus final platinum rating. So overall, the project has about 70 different sustainable building features, ranging from an energy efficient system that allows the building to save more than 30% energy per year compared to an average commercial building. But apart from the greenery and the energy saving features, what's worth mentioning here is the engagement programs, because we know it's important to make sure our tenants are on board, and we can create shared value with them by offering energy saving tips from the design stage, their renovation stage, to engaging our tenants, employees through different group fitness activities, cultural activities, and to really elevate their overall lifestyle to become more sustainable. So on the rooftop of this building, we have set aside space for a jogging trail, a farming area, and we hold classes there. Next, please. Another example is found in our project on the Kowloon side at K11 Musea, our retail destination. So on the 8th floor rooftop of Musea, we have created Hong Kong's first urban biodiversity museum and sustainability themed education park called Nature Discovery Park. So Nature Discovery Park literally brings nature into the middle of Hong Kong, of Kowloon. We have an urban farm there where, on a daily basis provides harvesting experience and to teach people, teach your visitors where food comes from and the importance of, eating local, keeping a low carbon diet as part of maintaining a sustainable lifestyle. But in addition to urban farming, we also offer different green tours and education programs for anyone, ranging from, children like 4 years old to adults or corporations that want to engage their employees and clients on ESG topics or on general sustainability. So this space is open, Monday through Sunday, and we do welcome any partners or individuals that are interested in, joining us in promoting a sustainable lifestyle to visit Nature Discovery Park. And you can find out more about us online or contact myself. Happy to chat further.
Ellie, thank you. It's great to hear how active you are in the community and also the emphasis you place on target setting and progress and benchmarking. So you hear about greenwashing, and for me, this is the opposite. This is impact integrity, which is something I heard about last night at the dinner. So congratulations. So we're going to switch our attention now to travel and how tourism could be more responsible and sustainable. So let's welcome Mr. Justin Francis, who is CEO and co-founder of Responsible Travel in the UK. Welcome, Justin, and you're going to share with us how your company is showing how tourism can contribute to sustainable goals. Over to you, Justin.
Thank you, Angus. Ellie, can I visit the Nature Discovery Park, please? Sounds absolutely amazing. I'd love to come and see it. But let me talk a little bit about Responsible Travel, the company that I founded. Is it possible to go to the first slide? And so the very beginning, 20 years ago, I spent a day and a night in an African village in Zambia. It was just an incredible experience. I joined the women pumping water from the well. I visited the traditional healer and joined the evening festivities. It was a real privilege. In the morning, the village elder came to see me and wanted to show me a school that he'd built based on the income from tourism. And he then said, could I go home and bring more tourists to visit his village and other villages, because he wanted to build a health clinic. And I was very inspired about an extraordinary experience I'd had as a visitor, one I'll never forget, but that also tourism could be a force for good. So if we go to the next slide, please. I founded the business Responsible Travel, and we believe in better holidays. We believe our holidays are more enjoyable because they do good. So we believe we have a commercial advantage through doing good. And next slide, please. When we holiday, we must remember we visit somebody else's home. It's a place where somebody else lives and brings up their children and goes to work. And we travel as a guest. And it's really at their discretion how much of their lives and culture they share with us or don't share with us. And so our belief is if you run tourism so it's beneficial to people who live in a destination as well as to you as a tourism business, you are likely to get a greater insight, be granted a greater insight into their lives and culture and ways of life. You get closer to nature and local places. So we call that the win-win of responsible travel, more enjoyable holidays that do good. Of course, that's not the normal behavior, I'm afraid, in the tourism industry. And if we can go to the next slide. In tourism as well, if we wouldn't mind just going to the next slide. Thank you. In tourism, what we see in many business sectors is this concept of freeloading on the environment, which we utilize for our products and services, but don't have the costs and the impacts of that on our balance sheets. We offload that to somebody else. And tourism is typical in that, we visit places, we package them up for sale, whether they be walks through cities or environments or local people's places they call home or natural habitats. We make money from them. We sometimes create damage, but we give little back. So that's typical of a kind of extractive or exploitative model, not just in tourism, but in many other sectors. Next slide. Our response to that is to create a stakeholder rather than a shareholder-driven business. We seek to balance the interests of our shareholders, they're important, our customers, our staff, the environment, local communities, and also government and suppliers. And that's not always easy, but we want to strive so that we are delivering benefit to all of those stakeholders. And it strikes me that this is quite consistent with the theme of your event today, and thank you for inviting me to it, which is about collective power, of course. Collective power and a stakeholder-driven business are about achieving common goals, and that's the connection between the two. If we move next slide, please. Ellie talked a lot about the principles of measuring, of checking and verifying, and also being transparent about your impacts. And Ellie was very transparent about the data of their impacts across the business. That's true of responsible travel too. So every single holiday is screened by hand individually against our criteria for responsible travel. Next slide, please. Just as a little example, at the bottom of every holiday page, we provide information about how we manage the impacts in the environment, the community, and climate. I just lifted this one from a Hong Kong walking holiday. Zhao Tan will be pleased here that we're focused on reducing single-use plastics as part of the environmental impacts of this holiday. Next slide, please. We also are transparent around our carbon impacts of our holiday. Our belief is that we need to fly less. Until 20 or 30 years, when we will have hydrogen and decarbonized aviation, we need to fly less. We need to take fewer holidays by plane, but stay longer. So longer holidays, if you can do that, with flights, cut out some other trips and include trips by train. So we publish our guidance on that and a film on that. Next slide, please. We also, whilst we have many holidays with flights, we have sections and quite significant offers for flight-free holidays. Next slide, please. We've also done a carbon audit of our holidays. Most of you will know that the carbon emissions from a holiday, aviation is a significant contributor to that. But we wanted to look more detail at the food and accommodation. And it was startling how much of a contribution food makes to the overall carbon impacts of your holiday. In some cases, not every case, but in some cases, the food impacts from the food you eat was comparable to the carbon emissions caused by the flight on shorter haul flights. So plant-based diets are really important. Next slide, please. We have a whole offer and a whole section dedicated to no single-use plastic holidays, which we work very hard to deliver. Next slide, please. We have an offer and a section for people with disability. And on each of those trips, we very carefully identify different types of disability and whether this holiday is suitable or not. And we work hard to expand the offer that we have here. I also want to talk about biodiversity. I think biodiversity is critical, as much so as carbon emissions, and the two are very strongly related. Next slide, please. I found this extraordinary statistic. If we were able to restore 1/3 of the planet's most degraded areas, and we were able to protect the areas that are left and still in good condition, it would store enough carbon that equate to half of all the world's greenhouse gas emissions since the Industrial Revolution. So nature provides carbon sinks. It absorbs carbon. And it's a terrific opportunity for us. And it's also a terrific opportunity for the tourism industry. Next slide. Because by taking wildlife holidays, we make the economic case for protecting that land for nature. In doing so, not only do we save biodiversity, but this land acts as a carbon sink, whether it's forests, whether it's savanna, whether it's healthy grasslands, whether it's peatland, to absorb carbon. And it's a vital part of our fight against the climate crisis. Next slide. We're also very aware that there are young people in tourist destinations who have never seen the special things that we as tourists get the privilege to see. There are young people who live close to beaches who've never been to a beach, or in Africa who live close to nature reserves who've never seen a lion. So we run a trip for a trip scheme. With every trip that is booked by a customer, we donate a trip to a child from a disadvantaged background. And it's something I'm very proud of. Next slide, please. We also have a list of things that we will not sell. This is our, if you like, editing out product that we do not feel is sustainable. No doubt this costs us money. And this goes back to my idea about the stakeholder-driven business. Sometimes we will compromise on things that could be profitable for us because we feel they're damaging to some of our other stakeholders groups, and particularly the environment or nature. Next slide, please. We also have government as a stakeholder. And I was talking with Angus about how important this is. Next slide, please. And I work with the British government around sustainable business as part of something called the Council for Sustainable Business. And the reason this is important, in the past I've been a very active campaigner, and I still am an activist for change in tourism. But what I've found is if you're serious about creating change, the only real way to do that is to work closely with government. And more recently, I've done that. Next slide, please. And one of the successes was creating something in the UK called the Jet Zero Council, which our Prime Minister announced. And this is a program to accelerate the decarbonisation of aviation as we go to hydrogen fuel. Next slide and final slide, please. So just in summary, the way I look at this is that I fundamentally want to build a better business. But I believe it's not a choice between profits and principles, or profits and values. I believe that we can be more successful commercially because of our strong value base. I believe in business as a force for good. I believe in collective power, and I think a stakeholder-driven approach to business is very much consistent with that. Thank you.
Justin, thank you so much. I love that trip for a trip idea. And it's also great to see the emphasis, like Ellie, that you put on measurement. So that holistic measurement of the carbon impact of a holiday. Great to see. And one of the things you mentioned actually was a campaign that resonated with me, which is the No Single-Use Plastic Holiday, which I think is a great segue to our next speaker. So I'd like to introduce at this point Mr. Xiaotan Zhao, who is president of RWDC, a Singapore-based biotech company, to share what his business is doing to help do away with single-use plastic through developing cost-effective biopolymer material solutions. Jiao-Tan, welcome, and over to you.
Thank you very much. Hi, thank you for the opportunity to present what we are doing at RWDC Industries. We are a Singapore company where all our operations are currently in the US, in Georgia. Our mission is to help solve the plastic pollution problem. I don't think I need to spend too much time on this. It is quite a disaster. Plastic is everywhere, and especially the existential threat is actually microplastic, which is literally in the air, in the water, and in the food that we eat currently, and it's only going to get worse if we don't do something about it. Regulators are acting globally currently. I don't think I need to spend too much time on this either, but I want to highlight that RWDC, we are one of a handful of companies that have been invited by the European Commission to advise them on single-use plastic legislation. And I'll go a little bit about on why that is the case in a few moments. Yeah. So our mission is to replace single-use plastics with something biodegradable. We believe the 3 R's are important: reduce, reuse, recycle. But fundamentally, we're using the wrong material to make single-use items. It doesn't make any sense to be making these disposable single-use articles with something indestructible, which is what plastic is, right? It's just indestructible. It's an illogical choice of material. And there exists actually a natural alternative, which is as versatile and as functional as plastic, right? So what is biodegradability? There's a lot of confusion in the market today. People in the marketplace, people are mixing up the words biodegradable and the word compostable when actually they are different things. Our material degrades via microbial action. Microbes will eat them up, digest them, and metabolize this into carbon dioxide and water in the natural environment, right? Compostable, on the other hand, it will degrade. It means that it will degrade, but only under special conditions, usually high heat or humidity. We're talking about 60 degrees Celsius, and that's just not going to happen in nature, right? So for example, I'm based in Singapore. In the whole of Southeast Asia, there are 0 industrial compost sites. So the distribution, the manufacture and distribution of all these compostable articles, at least in Southeast Asia, is a massive waste of human effort. That's what it is, because they just end up like regular plastic. So we have, for our material, we have all the certificates. TUV Austria is the gold standard for such things. We have all the certificates for both compost, home compost, industrial compost, but we also have the certificates for biodegradability in soil, fresh water, and marine conditions, i.e. all potential end-of-life scenarios. This material will safely biodegrade into carbon dioxide and water. How long it takes, at the bottom over here, this is actually a PHA film over a blue background. And you see that after 12 weeks, it's gone. How long it actually takes, the answer is it depends. It depends on how dirty the environment is. It requires the presence of microbes. It depends on things like temperature, thickness of the material, and surface area, right? So very simple things. But what we're talking about is weeks and months, not decades or centuries or millennia, right? So the material is called polyhydroxyalkanoates. It's quite a long word. The short form is called PHA. This material is a naturally occurring polymer that is not chemically modified. Why do we define it this way? Because if you look at the EU rules, if you are a natural polymer that is not chemically modified, you are not even considered plastic. So if you're not the plastic, all the single-use plastic legislation doesn't apply on you. So that's what we're trying to make sure that the Europeans come to this conclusion. We produce this via microbial fermentation. In our case, we use plant-based oils, any plant-based oils. Currently, we are exclusively using waste cooking oil as our feedstock. The material was called by Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble called this material the only viable biodegradable plastic, full stop. Why? Because the material is highly versatile. There are 150 types of PHA, and each one of them is slightly different from the other. So you can pick and choose the characteristics that you need for different applications. This is like a direct parallel to petroleum plastic, where you have polyethylene, polypropylene, blah, 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 right? It's the same thing over here. You can pick and choose the characteristics that you need. And yeah, and our breakthrough, RWDC's breakthrough, is we are able to produce the right quality, the right quantities, the right types of PHA, because 150 types, not all of them are useful, at the right price. The material is highly versatile. We can make everything on this slide. You know, we've made cutlery, straws. Our key focus area right now is food service items, and then we're going into packaging. We can make films, and we're working with one of the world's largest personal care brand product owners on fibers, and these fibers will be turned into wet wipes and diapers. So this is just to give you a sense of how versatile the material is. But our star product is to replace the coating on paper packaging. For example, your coffee cups or your burger boxes. And the reason is because we are able to make these coated paper articles biodegradable, easily recyclable, and at the same price, no cost barrier, right? So this is a no-brainer. Very quickly, in 2018, we won a prize by Temasek Foundation. They gave us $1 million to make some straws, and within 3 months, we had made 2 prototypes. Most of the things that we make, most of the prototypes that we have made so far, they are made on our clients' existing machines, i.e. no additional capex. So these are literally a drop-in replacement of the plastic that they're making. And these prototypes, they look and feel just like your regular plastic articles. You can't tell the difference as a consumer. We've also made some cutlery, also a drop-in replacement. It's already been accepted. Yeah, and where we are right now, we are currently producing PHA from a pilot facility at the University of Georgia. This is on the campus of UGA. And this facility is making materials for our clients' product validation trials. Last year, we acquired a 53-hectare brownfield site, and we're currently commissioning a 4,000-ton a year demo facility, which is expected to make PHA in the next couple of weeks. And as I mentioned, we exclusively use used cooking oil from US fast food chains. So we went to see one of these fast food chains, and with a straw, and we said, you know, imagine your customer walks in, picks up a straw. Firstly, this is special, it's biodegradable, blah, 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 right? But secondly, this is made using the cooking oil that just fried the chicken that you ate, right? So this is the definition of a closed loop. This is the definition of this is a glimpse of how a circular economy is going to look like, right, in the future. But 4,000 tons is too small. So what we've done is we've designed full-scale production modules of 25,000 tons a year. Why 25, not 30 or 35? Because every single piece of equipment that can be bought off the shelf is designed to be bought off the shelf. So all your pumps, all your pipes, all your valves, if we have to go one size bigger, we have to custom make, and that's not what we want to do. The whole idea is to copy and paste. And the way I explain it to all our investors, we are not Apple. We do not need to come up with a new iPhone every year. We need to build one of these, show the world it works. And for the next 5 to 10 years, we're just building the same thing. The first one in the US is likely going to be primarily financed by a loan guaranteed by the US Department of Agriculture, right? So this is our brand. The consumer-facing brand is called Solon. I can go into why it's called Solon. but please look out for it. We're currently working with some of the world's largest F&B and FMCG companies, and some of the first Solon-made articles will come out in the market in 2021. So yeah, so our vision is to work with nature and to learn from nature, and to produce the next generation of bio-based materials, because modern biotechnology has given us the tools to make these natural materials at large industrial scale, right? And it makes much more sense to be doing that, working in harmony with nature. All right, so our vision is to be the next bio-based BASF. All right, thank you.
Xiaotan, thank you so much. Great to hear how you're using materials technology to solve this existential crisis of plastic pollution in the environment, and even better that you're using waste oil from fast food, a great example of closed loop economy, as you say. Which brings us to the Q&A section. So please, members of the audience, this is your time to click on the Q&A room in Zoom and share your questions, and I'll be glad to field them to our expert speakers. But maybe to get the ball rolling, Ellie, why don't I start with you? Can you tell us, was it a struggle for you to balance short-term profit with the sustainable goals that you talked about?
That's a question that every sustainability practitioner faces every day, but especially during economic downturn. I think first of all is to sort of break free from the mindset of sustainability would cost you a lot of money. I really like how Xiaotan ended his presentation of, with his company vision, which is to learn from nature. And I think there's a lot to learn, right? Like a lot of processes that we see as business norms now don't really have to be this way. I think there are ways to reduce our consumption. So instead of thinking about, say, waste management, we can reduce waste from the source through costless initiative like raising awareness internally. And I think, during COVID, actually, all sectors, but especially, say, the real estate sector has learned a few lessons, such as to accelerate digitalization. So say, for my example, my company is very much in the construction and the property development business. So inevitably, COVID, has paused some of the activities, which, to us meant an opportunity to utilize more smart construction. And we have started that a couple of years ago, but to utilize different, simulation to play around with constructions, with building designs before we actually work on site. So utilizing these planning tools, we're able to optimize our resource use and to reduce our cost. And sustainability solutions are basically mixed bags of solutions, right? So everything ranging from energy saving to cost saving or investing in clean tech. So at times where we shouldn't spend very heavily on new initiatives, we can prioritize initiatives that reduce utilities and reduce costs. So that's basically how we prioritize.
Thank you. Yeah, it doesn't have to be a trade-off, does it? Justin, one for you. I'm interested in how you as an employer, as responsible travel, managed to get your customers and your employers to buy into these innovative, sustainable campaigns that you described.
I think when you set out your company with a clear social purpose, and in our case it's in the name, responsible travel, then you attract people right from the start who share your value base, I guess. So from then on, it's no difficulty at all to get the staff to buy into your activities. And I think, in fact, we benefit from getting brighter, more talented people, because young people want to feel their many hours at work are making a difference to the world. So we get better staff as a result, and they're committed. With regard to customers, what we've been able to show is that there's a very strong link between an authentic, a real experience, one that gets you closer to nature and local people, and treating people and the environment right. And so from the customer perspective, there's a real commercial advantage, and our reviews, which 94% of 4 or 5-star reviews, evidence that. So in both cases, we get better people and we get happy customers.
Thank you. And I couldn't agree more. I think if you're clear about who you are and what you stand for, you attract people naturally who believe what you believe. So great, thank you. Xiaotan, one for you. Could you share more about the challenges that you face to increasing the adoption of the PHA products that you describe and what you're doing to solve them?
Thank you for the question. If you look at the history of new materials, it takes a really long time. We're talking about decades to get industry or to get people to commercialize a new material. And the reason is because you need to solve every single problem. Everything fails on the weakest link, and if you haven't solved all the problems and you haven't made it a drop-in replacement, the big boys have no time to play with you, to fiddle around with you, right? But this is why I'm also confident. My founders, I'm not the founder of the company, right? My 2 founders, one is 76 and the other is 61, right? It has literally taken them decades to get to where we are. But I'm very, very confident that we are now at the cusp. We are now at the inflection point of transitioning the world away from single-use plastics to something that makes much more sense, something that is actually natural and has all the requirements that you want from a single-use polymer point of view, right? So, and the reason is because we are making these prototypes currently, and I have some with me. So this is the straw that we've made. So I'm flexing it so that you can see how it behaves, just like a normal straw. Cutlery that we've made on our clients' existing machines, right? No additional capex. Yeah, I can go on and on, but they are all made on our clients' existing machines. So this is literally a drop-in replacement. So I think we're there. It's not a demand-driven material. It's actually supply-driven. So our business is completely supply-driven. There's no lack of demand for what we're doing. And as I mentioned, the clients that we're working with are the global brand owners who are the biggest users of single-use plastics. And they're very, very excited about our vision to replace single-use plastics with this material.
Great, thank you. And I'm sure it helps that there's no cost trade-off either to worry about. So the fact that it doesn't cost more than what you're replacing was also going to be helpful to you, right?
Right. For certain applications, that's the case. For most other applications, it is a little bit more expensive. But in the grand scheme of things, it's at an acceptable level. And that's the feedback that we're getting from these big clients.
Great, thank you. So we have a question from the audience. Selena, thank you for sending it in. And the question is, as we are all from different industries, how do you see the challenges and opportunities brought by COVID-19 to your company? So why don't I just start? In terms of healthcare, our clinics business obviously was impacted in a negative way. Customers couldn't attend the clinics because of the COVID restrictions, yet we still had to pay the rental and the doctors and nurses fees. Yet it forced us to rapidly innovate and build a telemedicine service for virtual doctor consultations. And I'm happy to say that's picked up well, and that's a habit that's stuck for our customers in Hong Kong. So sort of overs and unders from a healthcare point of view. But Ellie, why don't I direct that your way?
Sure. So yeah, I think a similar case for us. Innovation definitely was something that we have accelerated even more so during COVID. As with every other company, and Hong Kong basically entered into lockdown in early 2020. All of the companies, HR teams and admin teams were scouting for masks and disinfecting tools and gears to protect our employees, right? So in addition to doing that, our company actually started producing our own masks by leveraging our own construction capabilities and our partnerships with different startups. And we're even looking into new material R&D by investing in a nano material company. So as of now, we have 4 production lines set up locally in Hong Kong, producing thousands of masks per day. And in the first batch of production, we made it a point to donate to 8 local NGO partners to ensure people that are, from underprivileged backgrounds get to use these masks first and they're protected. And there are surplus ones that are being sold via touchless vending machines, or we call dispensers, in our retail projects, major office buildings. But with every single box of masks sold, we donate 1 box to the NGO partners that we have in the region. So this is one of our creating shared value initiatives. And I think it's a concrete example of how we literally turn a crisis, a healthcare crisis, into an opportunity. And point 2 I want to make has to do with staying engaged with our people, whether they're employees or tenants and customers. A lot of us know, the retail industry at large has been hurt by the lockdown. Obviously, not everyone is, leaving their homes to visit shopping malls or, going to office as usual. So naturally, our footfall has dropped. But because we have always been engaged with our tenants and supporting them, whether we're talking about energy saving or helping them promote their business or connecting with different business partners, and we continue to do so during COVID using digital means, and we proactively reached out to different tenants. This has actually been, positively received by different business partners and helped us stay resilient.
Great, thanks, Ellie. Justin, same question to you. Challenges and opportunities of COVID for your industry?
Challenges have been extreme. Of course, the tourism industry carries people around the world, and therefore we potentially spread COVID. So it's been a shutdown and catastrophic impacts, not just on airlines and tourism companies that you read a lot about, but as you know, I'm really passionate about the conservation projects that are funded through tourism and the communities that are reliant on tourism. Many communities are not wealthy, so the impacts have been felt hardest there, if you like. What's different about this crisis, if you like, which is healthcare, but also become economic, is that it was caused by sustainability issues, caused by a breakdown in our relationship with the natural world. And so what we're finding with our customer base is a growing understanding and interest that we have to repair that relationship with the natural world. So sustainability hasn't taken a back seat through COVID, it's taken a front seat through COVID, which is really exciting. For us, we're laying plans to rebuild and really focus around this idea of using tourism to rewild places, to bring back nature, to bring back wildlife, to create the economic reasons for that. And so next year, as the industry recovers, we're going to work with our suppliers and our customers to rewild more areas.
Fantastic, thank you. And Xiao Tan, how has it impacted you in your game?
Thank you. The use of single-use plastic actually went up because of during COVID. That's clear for everyone to see, right? All the food deliveries, all the face masks, and these are all made of plastic, including your face masks. So our clients, during the COVID lockdown period, our clients actually wanted us to continue supporting them on our trials, all these production trials. And I think this is really a testament of our clients' commitment to our material and our product, because everyone sees that longer term, we need to solve the single-use plastic problem, and it's become even more urgent because of COVID. So it has presented some challenges for us because we're building plants and it delayed the construction of our facilities. But in the grand scheme of things, that's nothing. It's a few months of delay. From the investment community, I think it's very clear now that sustainability is a key driver of business decisions going forward. All the top business leaders have come out to say this. And if you look at the share prices of oil companies versus renewables renewable energy companies, it's pretty clear the writing's on the wall for fossil fuels, and the future is renewable. So mankind has to make this transition successfully. Otherwise, there's no other alternative, right? So this is the big picture, and this is the reason why our clients are so committed to what we're doing. I think COVID did provide some a speed bump, but I think it might not be a bad thing, for everyone to reconsider the trajectory that we were going previously. It's just not sustainable.
Okay, we've got a couple of minutes left, and in the absence of questions from the audience, maybe one last rapid fire round of Q&A. So to each of you, and maybe starting with Ellie, 10 years from now, how does what you're doing today look different?
I hope for large corporations, sustainability, should be completely integrated into everything, from board decisions to daily operation to risk management. It doesn't have to be a standalone function to really coordinate among different departments and units. It should be very much in the DNA of each corporation.
Great, thank you. Justin, same question.
I think I'm going to be excited in 10 years' time when I'm looking back and I'm seeing how tourism is no longer imposed on places, no longer imposed on destinations or on the environment. But tourism is planned with communities, so they benefit from it, and tourism is planned for destinations for their benefit, and particularly around restoring more nature. So I don't think destinations should sell themselves from the tourism industry. I think they should make use of the tourism industry, and I think that will be a profound change, and I think it'll be more enjoyable for customers too.
Thank you. Xiao Tan.
Yeah, I hope that in 10 years' time, consumers and businesses are more aware of the choices that they make using for the materials that go into their products, and that consumers will be demanding for better end-of-life options for the products that they're using, and that businesses will respond to that demand.
Great, thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of the session. So I hope you found it as informative and entertaining as I did. I learned an awful lot in the last hour, and I hope you've got some ideas to take away in terms of what you can do, both as an individual and in your corporate, to live more sustainably. So I want to thank our speakers, Ellie, Justin, and Xiao Tan, for their contribution today. Thank you so much. And I'd like to make one last request of those people on the call. Before you leave, please fill in the survey. The link can be found in the chat room or by downloading this, scanning the QR code that's being shown now. Your feedback is extremely useful for us to evaluate the summit and do a better job in the future. And then you can return to the agenda page on MicePad to view the Day 3 program. So that's it from us. Thanks very much for joining the session today.